exercise medicine registrar and GP based in Birmingham. We've got 3 sections today for the talk. We've got Jazz and Stephen from Birmingham MIND. We're talking about kind of the things they're doing in Birmingham MIND and the benefits there. We've got Ryan from Aston foundation, all the work they're doing in that area, and Mike Jones from Better Happy as well. So we've got a really good lineup today. Just quickly specify, just go forward, sorry. I'm just going to put a link to some feedback for a survey in the chat. So if you're able to fill that in at some point, I'd really appreciate that. All of the webinars will be uploaded onto the Healthy Brum channel as well afterwards on YouTube. If you've got any comments or questions that you want to ask the speakers, then please put them in the comments box, and we'll come to that at the end of the section, and then we can go through those as well. So what I'll do now is I'll pass you across to Jazz and Stephen for the first talk.
Brilliant, thank you, James.
I'll just stop sharing my screen. There we go.
So does that mean I should be able to share my screen now then?
Should be able to, yeah, should be able to.
Looks like we can. Let's hope I've got the right one. Can you guys see that, yeah?
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Jazz.
Okay, so as James said, I'm Jazz Janogle. I'm the Service Manager for the Community Development Worker Service at Birmingham MIND, and Stephen Lewis. Actually, Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Stephen Lewis. I'm a Community Development Worker based at Birmingham MIND, and my area of work is like criminal justice and co-production.
Brilliant. So Steve and I will intermittently talk about various different things to do with physical activity. So we'll look at the link between physical activity and mental health and just how beneficial physical activity can be. We'll talk a little bit about some of the barriers and some of the key points to mention as well. And we'll give an overview, hopefully, of what the organisation as a whole does in terms of championing and promoting physical activity. And then we'll talk about what our particular service has done in the past and what it will be doing in the future as well. We were hoping to have a service user as part of this presentation as well, but unfortunately they've dropped out last minute, and I don't know if the replacement service user is on the call. So if you are, I think it's Mubashir, feel free to kind of send me a private chat message, and then we'll get you on as well. Also, as part of our webinar, Vanessa from Cycling UK is going to talk about one of the schemes that was set up in one of our supported housing schemes around physical activity. So, Steve, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure.
I need to move on to the next bit. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
There we go. There you go.
Okay, we're going to look at the link between physical activity and mental health. Okay, so, I mean, there's many studies that have been shown that doing physical activity can improve your mental health. Exercise can treat mild to moderate depression as effectively as antidepressant medication, but without the side effects. And we're not saying that's the same for all people. Exercise is a natural and effective anti-anxiety treatment. It relieves tension, stress, boosts physical and mental energy, and enhances well-being through the release of endorphins. Anything that gets you moving, whatever it is. We're not saying that you have to go to the gym, you've got to do this. There's anything that gets you moving that can help. But one of the things that it's good to take on board is don't zone out. Try and focus on what you're doing, and you'll get a better, you'll get a better outcome. Stress, in regards to stress, it releases endorphins in the brain as well. Physical activity helps to relax the muscles and relieve tension in the body. Since the body and mind are so closely linked, when your body feels better, so will your mind. And I think those of us that do exercise, you do feel the difference. But obviously there's things that we have to look out for, which we will mention later on. In regards to ADHD, exercising regularly is one of the easiest and most effective ways to reduce the symptoms of ADHD and improve concentration, motivation, memory, and also mood. Physical activity immediately boosts the brain's dopamine and serotonin levels, all of which affect our ability to focus. And these sort of exercise that we do works pretty much in the same way as medication, medication that's used to treat ADHD. So, the same exercise will do the same as the medication for something. Not saying it's for all. And regards to PTSD, evidence suggests that really focusing on your body and how it feels during your exercise, you can actually help your nervous system become unstuck and begin to move out of the immobilization and the stress response that characterizes PTSD or trauma. So as we, I keep saying that it's the same for everyone, but this can be the case for some people. So there, you have a link between physical activity and mental health. Jazz?
Okay, great. Apologies, I think my slides were flickering, but I hope they're better now. I've had laptop problems today, which is like the worst day to have them, but here we go. So Steve's kind of touched on some of these, but we wanted to just really emphasize the benefits of doing physical activity for anyone really, but especially for people who may have mental health difficulties or be diagnosed with mental illness. So looking at it from that perspective, and these are widely documented. There's so much research that's been done into the benefits of physical activity. So for people with mental health difficulties, it can help improve your memory, just give you a sharper focus, can help to improve cognitive function as well. So it can help you to kind of have your thoughts in a more ordered style. Definitely helps with sleep. So whether that's the amount of sleep that you get, but crucially, it's the quality of sleep that you can have as a result of doing physical activity. A lot of people, when they have mental health problems, especially if they're on medication for it, it can really impact on their energy levels. So it can lead to things like fatigue and just feeling really lethargic and low in energy. Doing physical activity at the right level, obviously, will help to counterbalance that and help to improve energy levels, and can also lead to a decrease in fatigue as well. Again, a lot of people, when they have mental health problems, might have things like low self-esteem or low self-confidence, and have quite a negative image of their physical being, their physical body. Doing physical activity can help to address that, can help to counterbalance that, can certainly lead to a sense of a sense of achievement, a sense of satisfaction, and also have a more positive image of one's body. Can certainly help with resilience, and I'm not just talking about physical resilience here, I'm talking about mental resilience. Can help with mood. So mental health is all around mood and how we feel. Doing physical activity, again, at the right level and doing it regularly and sustaining that can certainly help to improve mood. As Steve was just saying, it can help to manage things like stress, anxiety. With some of the more complex mental illnesses where people experience intrusive or racing thoughts, physical activity can be a really good distraction technique to kind of get away from those thoughts and focus on something else, and doing something physically but having to concentrate on that. So it's getting away from those kind of really troublesome thoughts. Lots of evidence to suggest that doing physical activity will help prevent or reduce the risk of other physical illnesses, but it can also reduce the risk of other mental illnesses as well, including depression. So National Mind did a big study around this a few years ago and found evidence to support that. And something else that's worth mentioning as well is when people are struggling with their mental health, there's a tendency to want to isolate. There's a tendency to want to withdraw from things. Doing physical activity can help people to connect with others. So whether that's kind of joining a gym or going to a class at a leisure centre, or being part of a walking group or a cycling group, it provides the opportunity to do that. We do, though, need to talk about the potential barriers that face people with mental health problems in terms of doing physical activity. So it's not as easy as just telling somebody do some physical activity or go for a walk or do a bike ride or join a class, because sometimes there's very real kind of pertinent issues as to why somebody may not be able to engage in physical activity. Whole host of things. I'm just going to cover a few of them. The physical symptoms themselves. So if, for example, kind of tied in with the medication one, really, if your medication that you're taking is leaving you feeling really drowsy, leaving you feeling really lethargic, that can be really difficult to get that level of motivation to be able to do some kind of physical activity. National Mind did a webinar, I think it was last year, where they looked at physical activity, but looked at it from a slightly different angle, which was the problems associated with doing physical activity. And one of the service users on there was talking very openly and honestly about their experiences of having a mental illness, using a sport facility, but feeling that the staff members at the sports facility, the leisure centre, weren't equipped to be able to support him with times when he wasn't feeling very well. So they weren't aware of what a panic attack looks like and how to support somebody when they're having a panic attack, or weren't aware of what anxiety or how anxiety may impact somebody joining a leisure centre and wanting to kind of participate in a class. I've mentioned about negative body image, and I think it's just worth kind of repeating. If you're starting from a place that is negative already, it can be really hard to motivate yourself to want to do some physical activity, even though we know that that physical activity is probably going to improve your body shape and can help you to have a more positive body image. But it's just worth noting that, you know, sometimes those thoughts are really, really negative, and it can be a real difficult challenge to kind of overcome that. The other thing that was mentioned on the National Mind webinar recently was around, we tend to know that people don't do enough physical activity. So that there's loads of research that suggests that, you know, in the UK, there's, you know, most of us don't do enough physical activity. We're not kind of achieving the general guidelines of what, 30 minutes moderate aerobic activity 5 days a week. But there is also the thing of doing too much as well. And that's when it starts kind of spilling over and becoming a problem, where people feel so addicted almost to exercise and doing physical activity, and then it becomes a punishment. And that's not just punishing for your physical body, that's mentally punishing as well. So that can be a barrier. Can't talk about physical activity and exercise and mental health without mentioning obviously COVID and all the associated restrictions around lockdown. It took away a lot of opportunities for people to kind of continue doing their normal physical activities, so whether that was joining a gym or kind of being part of a class. Interestingly, though, there have been some studies that have shown that actually during certainly the first lockdown, a lot of people did start improving or increasing their physical activity. So walking became like a really popular thing for a lot of people. And then the only other thing that I've mentioned around barriers here is multiple and complex needs. And I could talk about this for hours, but just to kind of give you a real snapshot, it's recognizing that somebody may have mental health difficulties, but that might not be the only thing that's kind of proving a challenge in terms of doing physical activity. So if you've got other issues going on in your life, if you've got other multiple needs, that can be really difficult to negotiate as well. So say things like substance abuse, say things like if you're homeless or, you know, you belong to a certain community group, there may be other things. So I suppose I'm just trying to illustrate the point that it's not as easy as always just saying to somebody to do some physical activity and that will help you, because actually there might be other things that are more pressing in their life that need addressing first. Steve, back to you.
Thanks, Jez.
There you go. Sorry, Steve. I was a few seconds late then. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It slows down. It sticks when you've been on the slide for a while. Key points, some facts and figures for those that like it. There's a few here. People with mental health problems are more likely to have poor physical health than the general population. So that speaks for itself there. You are twice as likely to be inactive if you have a long-term health condition. So whatever that health condition can be, it can impact on your ability maybe to focus or want to carry out exercise of however intense that exercise may be. Poor physical, slide's gone. 1 second. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Poor physical health increases the risk of developing a mental health problem. So they're, being sedentary or unfit sitting down, it can contribute to developing a mental health problem. So it's good, it's not for everyone. And as I keep saying, it doesn't have to be intense, just a bit of exercise can help. At least £1 in every £8 spent on a long-term condition is linked to mental health. And I suppose if that was calculated, worked out on a larger scale, you'd see how much money that is. Across the first 6 weeks of lockdown, and on average of 63% said they get active to manage their mental health. And I think if you look at what we can see when we're just walking around, over the past year, the amount of people that we've been seen out walking, riding, more so than any time. It's people that have sort of taken up activities that might not have engaged in exercise before. Thought, look, I've got to get out, I've got to do something. It might have been over just to get some fresh air, but they've kind of got into it and started to enjoy it. Some people started off walking and then it went to running. Some people started off walking and got themselves a bike. If you remember, it was like there was no bikes left in the shop. You couldn't get hold of a bike or exercise equipment. Those that, started to wanting to just take up a bit of exercise, it was difficult. So I think, that figure there is quite accurate. So it is a big thing. The way the world is now, it's a different place. And having that exercise, that opportunity to do with exercise is a big thing. And for those that did exercise, having it removed also had an impact on their mental health and well-being. Those that needed to go to the gym, they felt that was their only form of exercise. It also could have an impact on them. What we're going to do, we're going to look at a short video from National Mind, and it's just talking about 5 ways to get moving and feel better. And as we mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym. Thanks, Jazz.
Okay, well, let's see if this works, because I have a dodgy internet connection, apparently. So the video may stutter, so I apologize if that happens, but it is literally a minute long.
5 ways to get moving and feel better. Number 1, start small. You don't need to be lifting hundreds of pounds or run a marathon to feel better. Try a short walk or join a fun class. We're all different, so different things will help us feel better. Number 2, be kind to yourself. If you're doing anything more than you normally would, then that's a step in the right direction. Keep a diary or tell a friend about your achievements. Number 3, everyday things count. Gardening, vacuuming, mopping, those pesky chores are good for your mental health too. Number 4, clear your head. Physical activity often helps you concentrate on something other than unwanted thoughts and worries. Number 5, celebrate your achievements. Give yourself a reward whenever you've done well. These are just a few ideas. Why not add yours?
Right, did that work okay?
Yep.
Brilliant, okay. So yeah, we wanted to include that video just because it kind of encapsulates some of the things that we were saying, but also demonstrates just how physical activity can be done quite easily, because sometimes people get a feeling that, I need to do this or I need to do that, and it becomes this kind of like big scary thing. But yeah, that video kind of just highlights just how easy physical activity hopefully can be done. Just moving on then, and let me just share the presentation again so you guys can see this. This is all nice and slick, isn't it? Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Oh. Okay, so hopefully the slide you can see now is Birmingham Mind and physical activity. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Birmingham Mind, largest mental health charity across West Midlands. I will say we are very good at promoting physical activity and championing physical activity as something that's really positive and useful and empowering to do, but also as something that's really key to recovery in terms of mental health. So I'm not going to say too much about our particular service because Steve's going to cover that, but the Community Development Worker Service has done numerous things over the years and will be doing going forward as well around physical activity. We have a wellbeing and recovery service, so we have 4 wellbeing hubs across the city, so north, east, south, west. We work in partnership with Creative Support to deliver that service. Across all the hubs, there is always some element of physical activity. So whether that's a walking group, whether that's yoga, Tai Chi, there's various different things that happen, again, to promote physical activity has been really key to recovery. We also have the Being Well service. So some of you may have heard about this. This was set up on the back of COVID, really. And it's a free online service for anybody who might be struggling with their mental health. So you don't necessarily need to be diagnosed with a mental illness as such in order to access it. And it's short courses delivered online, anything from 4 weeks to 6 or 8 weeks on a range of different topics, things like mindfulness, relaxation, managing anxiety. And in terms of physical activity, what the Being Well service does is online yoga courses which might sound a little bit strange, but the yoga teacher that we use for those sessions, Debbie, demonstrates the yoga on Zoom and then gets the group to kind of like follow through with those movements. And having done the course myself, I actually think it works really, really well online. We've got a number of supported housing residential services across the patch, and having spoken to all the service managers within those services, they do lots of stuff in terms of empowering their service users to be able to do some kind of physical activity. So there's lots of different walking groups that take place. There's lots of different cycling groups that take place as well. I do need to mention, obviously, over the last 12 months, there has been a pause on some of those activities, especially any activities that were done indoors. But I am pleased to say that things like the walking groups have continued in the kind of safe kind of way in terms of doing it in groups of 6 and maintaining social distance. So it's nice to see that that has still continued. Steve, do you want to talk about our service?
Yeah, sure. Okay, there you can see some projects that our team, the Community Development Worker Services, have worked on in the past. So we deliver wellbeing sessions across the city in the strands of work that we work in. But those wellbeing sessions would always contain an element of physical activity to the most part. We've used yoga, Tai Chi, and Bhangra. So that will be all part of the wellbeing session to get people up and moving. We've worked in partnership with EFL, the English Football League, in regards to mental health awareness sessions to staff, and I think some of the players it was delivered to as well. So that, you know, that was a big piece of work there, but it was probably going out to an audience that we might not normally engage with. So that was beneficial, and, you know, looking at the impact of sports, how an injury might impact on a player, not being able to he feels, you know, sort of inadequate or letting the team down if he's injured. So, you know, we covered all various aspects in regards to that, and even aspects of the fans, how the fans feel at maybe at the end of a football match in regards to their mental health and well-being, because it's something that they're into and it's a big part of their life. In the past, we've worked in partnership with Run Birmingham. My colleague worked over in Spark Brook with the Asian Resource Centre, and initially they were working with a group of South Asian women. It started off as a walking group, and I think they went on to sort of start doing, you know, running, but it was in an area that they felt comfortable in. So that was the key thing, and that worked really well. And I think either, you know, my colleague or one of the members went on to be like a coordinator in regards to that. We've worked with Pat Benson Boxing Club, worked with, you know, getting sessions arranged for women who wanted sessions separate from the men. Also with asylum seekers and refugees. They were going to, they you know, as part of the work that my colleague was delivering with that particular group, some of the members joined Pat Benson Gym and continued to do so once those sessions had finished. And, you know, he always said that it was a big thing for him. He was asylum seeker that came over from Syria, and he said, you know, he trained hard, he worked hard. He was a gentleman in his 50s, but he said he looked forward to those sessions because it helped him mentally. There's been Football in Mind, walking football, so that was engaging with men around their mental health and well-being, but they were part of a walking football team. But, you know, generally men didn't sort of open up in regard to their mental health and well-being, but, you know, the football, the bonding, it worked really well. So there's some good sessions took place there with my colleagues. And also there was working with the Aston Cricket Club. So they'd engage with families and the children around cricket, but also about well-being and mental health. So that worked well as well. And also we did some well-being sessions over at the Lighthouse over in Aston, Newtown, with cricket, but it was working with younger people there and how engaging with sport can get them to open up and talk about what they're actually going through. So that worked well. We did work with Sport for Life and Sport Birmingham. So there was an element of mental health and resilience working with the young people there. So they'd be engaging in the sports that they wanted to engage in, but also looking at their mental health and well-being and addressing sort of issues that they might face, and looking at how the two can help the mental health and the sport together, physical activity to be precise. We've worked with St Martin's, and that was based around working with asylum seekers and refugees around cricket. And also we were part of the Think Football with Aston Villa as well. I know we've got Ryan on here. I don't know if he's going to mention that as well, so I won't say too much about that, but that was a session that took place weekly, and we were on hand as community development workers to support those sessions if needed, because sometimes you have to be prepared that sometimes some things can come out. You're delivering a session on, the session taking place on football. Anything can happen on the field, which might impact on someone's mental health or well-being, or they might think, well, we need to address this, or we need to look at this. It'd be good for the group to talk about and discuss this. So we also are on hand to do that as well. So those are some of the projects that we delivered as a team over the past few years. And as Jazz mentioned, it's been we haven't been able to do that much, but we're looking forward to sort of getting back into that in the future because of the link and the impact. You want to introduce the next slide, Jazz?
Yeah, but we were hoping to have Vanessa from Rookery Riders, from Cycling UK to talk about Rookery Riders. I can't see if Vanessa's on the call, to be honest, but Vanessa, if you're there, God, I feel like this is a seance. If you're there, Vanessa, can you make yourself known? Can you just say if you are there? I'm looking for
sorry, I don't see Vanessa in the participants list.
No, I don't either. That's what I was looking, but I was thinking maybe she might have been under a different name. Okay, no worries. Do you know what? Save kind of stalling any time, and we're slightly running over time. I'll just talk about this myself. So Rookery Riders was set up for one of our supported housing schemes that we run in partnership with the NHS and the Mental Health Trust. It was for Rookery Gardens is the name of the supported housing scheme, and basically what the service manager did there to promote physical activity for the service users who were living there was get in touch with Cycling UK. They then loaned out some bikes for the service users to be able to go out regularly to do bike rides. They affectionately call themselves the Rookery Riders, and basically continued to do that for a number of months. Again, because of COVID, that's been on hold, but that's something that will be picked up again. Move on then, Steve. Do you want to talk about the the next bit? Yeah,
sure.
And when I can get the slide going, there you go. You're fit for Wellbeing Initiative.
Okay, no problem. It's taking a bit of time to come through.
Has it moved on?
No, not on mine. Is it? Okay. Yeah, I'm there now. Thanks, Jazz. Okay. This is another project that we delivered as a team. It was a project that primarily promoted physical health and not so much mental health, because sometimes we have to work with the stigma. So our main aim is to engage around mental health, but we will utilize sport to get there. The Fit for Wellbeing project was delivered in partnership with a local community gym. The group was identified from members of the gym and the local community from the Small Heath and Kings Heath area. It was a case of delivering fitness sessions weekly, and the type of session would be based on what the group wanted. So we just don't want to set it out, oh, we're going to do this. We want to deliver what the group needs and what they felt. It was a group of young men that we were ex-offenders or at risk of offending. So that was the cohort we were engaging with. The sessions looked at healthy eating, mental health, volunteering. There was signposting on hand if needed as well. So, we'd do the session. Myself and my colleague would take part in the sessions as well to get the group that bonding as well, which is always important. It's not like a them and us, we're all in it together, so to speak. So the sessions went on. We spoke about sports massage. We had someone come in and do some sports massage for the guys as well. And I think over the period that it ran, I think the majority of the guys did get benefit from it. By the end of the sessions, the group had like a greater understanding of their own health and well-being and mental health. and physical health and the links to it. This is what, this is the things that they were saying, the comments that they made. They understood the impact of how poor lifestyle choices could increase the onset of long-term health conditions or even contribute to them, i.e. smoking, drugs, and excessive drinking. I mean, we weren't aiming to sort of say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, but we showed that if you do this, what potentially could happen. And if you do it long-term or heavily, what could be the potential outcomes for yourself. We looked at the calorie values of food and how that contributes to weight gain and weight loss. Participants learned how to plan out a balanced diet. Towards the end of the sessions, they felt less isolated as they were amongst their peers, and which subsequently resulted in friendships being formed as well, and visits continued to the gym outside of the days that we delivered the session. So that, that was quite rewarding. That was nice to see. The people on the group learned how to manage setbacks and obstacles, because, we made it clear sometimes we set up these groups, these sessions, and people fall off for whatever reason and are no longer to attend. But we said, this happens. So if this does happen to you, always feel free to join, come back. We're not judging here. So some guys, they might not come for 2 sessions, but they'd come back. We didn't make a big thing of it. We mentioned it at the start of the program that it will happen, and don't feel fearful or that, I've given, to give up, or I've made a mistake, the group's going to judge me in any way. No, they were very supportive of each other. And some of the comments that we had at the end of the session were, I have learned how to cope with setbacks, and I can apply this to many areas of my life. So looking at the setbacks and being positive from the setbacks as well. I'm back on track now thanks to these sessions. I feel like life is anew for me. And one guy said, I didn't think I had it in me. Another one, mental health and physical health both need to be looked at to live a better life. Being in a good mental state can lead to a better quality of life, more get up and go. Meeting new people and making new friends has changed my whole outlook on life. I value my freedom. So those are some of the comments that we had at the end of the sessions. It'd be nice to do something again like that, but as the situation now in the world, in the UK, we can't, but we hope to, because we can see the benefit when you work with people around sport and well-being and physical activity. However small that activity is, you see the benefit when you're engaging with them. You're talking about the impacts on their mental health and well-being. It definitely does work. Thanks, Jazz.
All right, great stuff. Sorry, apologies from Vanessa. Apparently she did try to get on 3 times but couldn't get on for whatever reason. So she sent me a bit of text, and I think I've covered everything that she was going to say, albeit in a much shorter amount of time. I'm also conscious of time because I've eaten into like Ryan's time and Mike's time. So just to talk about kind of just to end really our bit, just to talk about our future plans. So yeah, we've said it a few times, things have been on hold in terms of the physical activity stuff that we would normally do, both within the community development worker service but across the organisation. I'm not going to talk too much about the Aston Villa stuff because I don't want to like do any spoilers for Ryan's bit. But yeah, we're rebuilding connections with both Sport Birmingham, Sport for Life as well. As Steve said, we are looking to get back into gyms. Is it the 12th of April they open, or whenever they open? We'll be doing that. We're also going to be doing that from the men's health work stream that we have as well, from that perspective. Something that's really exciting that the team mentioned to me, because I only joined in July last year, is that we had some conversations with the LTA, the Lawn Tennis Association, around tennis and getting different communities engaged in playing tennis. So I know the LTA are doing some really good stuff at trying to kind of make tennis more accessible and kind of break the stereotype that it's a white middle class sport. So that's really exciting. So we're picking up conversations with them as well. And as a huge tennis fan, that's massively exciting for me. And then we'll continue with the football stuff. So there's the EFL stuff that National Mind are involved in, so English Football League. So we are going to be doing a virtual, it is going to be virtual, virtual match day for Birmingham City on the 1st of May. They're playing at home against Cardiff. So we'll be supporting that and hopefully raising money for Birmingham Mind, but also kind of promoting Birmingham Mind services and promoting mental health and wellbeing there as well. And then some of the cricket stuff that we've done in the past as well, we'll be picking up on that. I'm just going to quickly end with a bit of a shameless plug for our service. So this is who we are with the CDW service at Birmingham Mind. Those are the community groups that we work with, but that's not an exhaustive list. I am always more than happy to diversify and work with any kind of community groups or organisations. So if you like the sound of kind of what we do, whether it's our service or whether it's Birmingham Mind wider, please do get in touch. We're happy to work with anyone and happy to champion physical activity, especially in relation to mental health and wellbeing as well. The website's on there as well, and then I'm just going to mention about the Birmingham Mind helpline that we run in conjunction with the Mental Health Trust 24 hours a day for anyone with any kind of queries, questions, concerns around mental health and wellbeing. And at that point, I will shut up.
Great. Thank you very much, Jazz and Stephen. That was a really, really interesting talk, and there's been the comments reflect that as well. Everyone was saying the great work that you're doing, and so many different things that you're doing as well. So thank you very much for that. Really good. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share the screen and bring up Ryan's presentation. I'll hand you over to Ryan. Okay, I'll hand you over to Ryan Hollings from the Aston Villa Foundation.
Thank you, James. Good afternoon, everybody. As James said, I'm Ryan Hollings from Aston Villa Foundation. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Manager at the Foundation. I think it's quite a seamless link into the presentation I'm about to sort of talk you through, and some of the programs and projects we're running at the Foundation off the back of the stuff that Birmingham Mind have just sort of spoken about, as we have been working quite closely with Birmingham Mind over especially over these last sort of 12 months. So if we could move on, James. Thank you. So some of you on the call might not necessarily know who the Aston Villa Foundation are or what we do. I think that the perception is that as Aston Villa, we're a football club, and that's all we do. We've got millions of pounds in the bank, and we're getting better with each Premier League season that passes, but that's not who the Foundation are. So as it states on the screen, we're the registered charity that's affiliated to the club, and we deliver the community and social responsibility work for the Aston Villa Football Club. So our mission statements, as it reads, is working alongside local and national stakeholders. The Foundation delivers projects, initiatives, and provides opportunities to achieve in its mission of working together to enrich lives. And I think that's again a real poignant point, is that working together. I think one of the things that you'll find throughout the slides and throughout the quick presentation that I'll sort of talk about is that partnership link and is working together. So although, like I say, we are affiliated to the club, we are our own sort of entity as well. So we don't receive any funds directly from the club themselves. Everything's via sort of donations and external funding. But we use obviously the club as the vehicle to drive the programs and the projects and engage those larger audiences. As you can see, in terms of the infographic there, we have 4 sort of main key themes around education, sports participation, social cohesion, and health. And health is what I'll be talking a little bit about today. So you can see there's a host of different activities and programs that we run. Outside of COVID regulations, we generally run 250 to 260 sessions a week across all of those remits. So you can see there that we engage quite a large audience, and that's anything between 7,000 to 8,000 people that we engage with, again, on a weekly basis across all of those key themes. If you can move the next slide, James. Thank you. So I think, again, I won't talk about this too much because, again, Jazz and Steve talked about a little bit about this as well, in terms of the benefits of physical activity, in terms of obviously the benefits of being physically active and how that has a positive impact on your mental health. I think the past 12 months, I think, have proven how beneficial physical activity can be. whether that, like I says, be virtual or even better getting outside. I think a lot of people over this last 12 months have appreciated going outside and walking. Again, I think as Jazz and Stephen touched upon, about how important it is to be outside and be around others, and being in those outdoor spaces, and having people have been encouraged to do activities they hadn't done before. I think some research has shown that, I think in the last sort of 12 months, and this comes from government sources, that cycling has increased over 200% in the last 12 months period, which I think again emphasises the need for people to want to be physically active and try something new and be outdoors. And I think again, with the return of recreational outdoor activities, just yesterday you'll see that there's a number of activities that are taking place now across the city and again across the UK. And again, we're going to be part of that in terms of our physical provision. James, can I ask you to move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So where we come into this and where our mental health and wellbeing sort of agenda first really started was through a project called Think Football. Some of you on the call again might know about Think Football, and again, both Stephen and Jazz touched upon it very briefly. So the project itself is open to anyone who's 18 plus. It was launched initially in 2017 as a 26-week pilot that was funded by Sport Birmingham in partnership with Birmingham Mind and Newman University at the time. Beyond that 26-week pilot, we found that the level of impact that we had on those that were engaging was huge. The feedback we had is that they wanted it to continue. So we were able to access some funding through the Premier League Charitable Fund to continue the project longer term. So over that period, we've been able to deliver the project to over 200 participants. And again, in terms of measurement tools, because again, we want to measure that impact and show how we can benefit people by being physically active. So by being physically active, we've been able to increase the mental well-being of those that have been engaging by 70%. As well as this a 65% increase in the relationship status of those that are taking part. And the way we've measured that is through a tool called WenWebs, and the WenWebs tool has been a great resource for us in terms of measuring those mental well-being impacts. And it's again been able to enable us to track that progress and that journey of those individuals that have been involved. So the project itself, like I said, uses football as the vehicle to engage that audience. So prior to lockdown, we generally used to get between 30 to 40 guys mainly that were attending the session on a weekly basis. And that was based at Villa Park. And again, I think one of the pulls was being at Villa Park, being so close to the stadium, being in the shadow of the ground and having that opportunity to play football on that hallowed or by that hallowed turf, I think was a real pull. And I think that's something we try to utilise and maximise to as much as we can in terms of using Villa as like I said, that initial pull. But the programme wasn't just all about football, it was also looking at those wider determinants of health. So as well as playing football, and again, Jazz mentioned it earlier, what we did do is we worked with a number of partners around, inviting them to talk about different principles of the wider determinants of health. So some of these guys might be looking for employment opportunities. So we'd invite the DWP to come and talk about employment opportunities within locally and both sort of regionally. Looking at finance management, inviting the police and the fire service to talk about safe and well on the streets and in their home. And also Birmingham Mind being a critical sort of player in that, in terms of supporting around mental well-being. So again, offering that insight to those participants that really needed that additional support, and knowing that one-to-one intervention and prevention techniques were there to support them if they felt like they were going into crisis. But generally this session was very much about those guys being physically active, but also that social element. Because I think that's something that has definitely been missed over the last sort of 12 months, that you'll see in the two pictures there. The one on the right hand side is when we were in our normal circumstances delivering provision on a weekly basis, whereas the image to your left was during sort of restriction periods where we were able to do additional activities, but we couldn't play football indoors. So we were running alternate fitness sessions. You can see there with the cones that are put out that those are there again to make sure that people social distance but could still be physically active and still socialise with others. And I think the key statements at the bottom there is a quote from one of the participants, that think football is the anchor to my week, maintaining my well-being and supportive environment whilst being physically active. And it's quite literally so that person's life. And I think those type of quotes probably read a lot more sort of poignant than me talking about the project. I think that states it all in terms of the importance of being physically active and being around others. If we move on to the next slide, James. Thank you. So as a foundation, we were quite fortunate, and some of you might not think that on the call, that Aston Villa were able to stay up last season, albeit by the last game of the season by 1 point, because as a foundation, we were able to then access funding through the Premier League Charitable Fund, which we then looked at to identify what was the biggest need within the city and across the fan base. And one of the things that we were quite keen to work on was the mental well-being agenda. I think everybody's mental well-being has been seriously affected by the COVID sort of pandemic. I think 65% of the local community have reported that that their mental well-being has been affected by, like I said, the national lockdown. So for us, we wanted to see what we could do and what we could deliver to support that mental well-being agenda within the city, and how could we utilise our platform to engage a larger audience. So as I said, the club itself has a great following, a large following, not just within the city, but obviously across the UK and internationally. But again, working with partners, we're able to identify what those key areas of need were. And again, you can see some real hard-hitting statistics there that are highlighted at the bottom of the column, and obviously the contributors to ill mental health. And I think obviously COVID pretty much relates to all of those sort of key items on the chart just there. James, if I ask you to move on to the next slide. So for us, it was what's next. So that's where the new project developed, which is called Teamwork. So again, the short statement you can see at the top, I won't read it through, but obviously you can see was to engage people both socially and digitally, and to educate them around mental well-being. And for us, it was doing that via 3 methods. And again, you can see those 3 methods highlighted there, and I'll just go into a bit more detail on what those are. So for us, as you can see, in terms of the social and physical activities, we're not mental well-being experts. We have staff that are trained as mental health first aiders, but we don't have the level of expertise such as Mind and other local Mind mental health charities, and obviously regionally as well. So what we wanted to do is work with those partners and identify what that need was. So that's where we've created operational steering groups, strategic steering groups, and the local sort of consultation with different forums as well as existing participants to find out what was that primary need in terms of those activities, those social activities people wanted to see. So we've just conducted a piece of work over the last couple of months, as well as some initial activities, to find out what the need is within the city, and making sure that we're tailoring our provision to suit that. So I think through that, what we have fundamentally found out is that our previous Think Football session was very much ran in the day, which wasn't inclusive for everybody. So there's working age adults, people that are working 9 to 5, shift workers that couldn't actually engage with that particular session because of the timings. So for us, it was looking at how can we run a similar session but alternative time. So we're going to be replicating that project, but also running it on an evening. So there'll be both a daytime session and an evening session, which will very much sort of mirror one another. From that, we're also looking at developing further activities, and one of those is going to be sort of self-care workshops. So back in February, we ran a wellness event looking at the wider determinants of health, had a number of key partners talking about those wider determinants, delivering short, sharp workshops to educate people on how to build up their resilience and coping strategies within that particular area. And from that, again, we found that there was a real need around self-care and additional support and social connection. So we're going to be delivering monthly sort of self-care workshops where, again, we'll be working with partners to deliver key messages to, again, support people, both sort of mentally and physically. And that then links quite seamlessly into sort of the digital content. So the digital content, again, From a club perspective and a foundation, we've got a huge following across social media platforms, which means that we can engage large audiences. What we're going to be doing is linking in with sort of national campaigns such as Time to Talk, Stress Awareness Month, Mental Health Awareness Week, sort of those real key primary mental wellbeing national campaigns, and running a number of initiatives and and activities during the course of that month, that week, which links people into terms of both being physically active and, again, socially engaged. So we'll be developing resources and content where people can support one another, but also find out how they can support their own personal well-being as well, through attendance at such activities. And then the third and final part of the jigsaw is that it's the training element. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be training up one of our staff internally as a mental health first aid cascade trainer. So that person will be able to deliver mental health first aid within the community. And what we will have is both a community and a commercial offer. So we'll be working with local micro community organisations to upskill their staff, volunteers, to become mental health champions within that establishment or within that workplace, wherever it might be. So they're that person who can support and identify that need, and again signpost people to those additional activities and resources and support if they need it. And the project's very much, as you can see there, is underpinned by the 5 steps to wellbeing in terms of connect, be active, take notice, keep learning and give. And they very much fundamentally underpin all of what teamwork is about. James, if I ask you to move on to the next slide. Thank you. And again, I think one of the things that I have touched upon is that key partnerships. Partnerships is the key for this project. Without those partnerships with those local and regional experts, we're not going to have the same reach and not going to have the same impact that we would if it was just ourselves. So with those local, regional, national partners, running those strategic and operational steering groups, it helps us to shape the activities and shape the activities and identifying that need. Because I think one thing that's going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months is the landscape's going to be forever changing. What we're experiencing now will be very different in 12 months. And what we have got with this project is a lot of flexibility in how we engage those audiences. And again, those partners can help us shape what that provision looks like. You can see there that we've also tapped into fan groups, the club itself. When I'm talking fan groups, there's affiliated fan groups that are associated to each of those, to the club itself, whether that's the LGBT group, which is Villa and Prouds, Punjabi Villains. And these guys have obviously additional reach to ourselves, and it can engage new audiences and ensure that we deliver an inclusive programme of activities, both digitally and physically. Ambassadors using people of influence that can again help us to share their stories of lived experience, because again that lived experience is very important to talk about how somebody's coped with feeling stressed and being suffering with anxiety, and how they've come out the other side, to be able to then support others. And I think that's key again, is utilising those learned experiences. If I could ask you to move on again, James, thank you. Last couple of slides now. So just a quick sort of overview there in terms of sort of our key targets over an annual period. And again, we've got, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of flexibility how we attain some of these figures and how we attain the percentages that we're looking to work on. So again, it'll be forever changing, and I'm happy to share these slides afterwards if anybody wants to recap in terms of anything that I've spoken about. And again, just a couple of quotes directly from participants just at the bottom of the slide there. Just the last one now, please, James. What have we done so far in reference to the project? So I've already mentioned the strategic and operational steering groups and the national campaigns. What we have done is we've developed walking, running and cycling clubs, and running these digitally. So each of these groups have a social platform, but they also have an activity platform in terms of Strava. So at the moment, each of those platforms have up to, I think this slide was a couple of weeks old now, we've probably got around 100, 600 members across the running and the cycling and the walking clubs. And what that platform enables is people to track their activity levels, but also, as well as tracking their activity levels, there's a social element to that as well. So people can talk and chat with one and as already mentioned, around sort of the wellness event as well. So that's what Aston Villa Foundation do in reference to sort of mental well-being in a nutshell. Like I says, I'll put my email accounts into the chat function. And like I says, I'm happy to share the slides as well if anybody's got any additional questions. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much, Ryan. That was really interesting talk and some fantastic stuff that the foundation is doing there. So thank you very much. And we've had some comments there. So thank you for everyone's comments. I'll pass you over now to Mike Jones.
Still forgetting to unmute myself. Thanks, James. Just conscious of time. What do you want to do?
Yeah, just carry on as you need to. Yeah, Mike. Thank you.
Well, yeah, conscious of everybody's time, so I'll try and squeeze it all in within 10 minutes. Got some content to share with you all, which I hope you find interesting and should complement the stuff that some of the stuff that Ryan's covered and Jazz and the other guys from Mind. So I'll share my screen now and just give you a bit of a background as to what we're going to go through. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Great, cool. So my name's Mike Jones. I'm from I'm a little bit different. I'm from a private sector company called Better Happy. What we do is we work with, let me just see if I can make this prettier. And we work with organizations and businesses to help improve health and happiness, which is quite relevant to what we're talking about today. Just a very quick overview of my experience. I started in the military. It was my first kind of professional career. I was Army intelligence and a physical training instructor in the Army. So I've got quite a long background with physical health. After that, after a couple of tours of Afghan, I went and did some traveling for 3 years, lived on monasteries, lived with kids in monasteries, taught them English, did a bit of soul search and learned a little bit more about philosophy and spirituality. Then I returned to the UK and opened my first business, which was a gym. And I ran that for 5 years. And that was a gym with a very big focus on functional movement and mental health, as well as just being fit. And then a couple of years ago, me and my business partner, Neil Cleaver, who met because he delivers team building events. We met. There was a big demand in the private sector for movement coaching as well as just team building events. So they wanted events around movement and helping people be healthier at work. So we started doing events together, and that turned into Better Happy, which is what I'm just going to explain to you about now. And we've been doing Better Happy for 2 years. And we work with a range of businesses and organizations. So private sector, accountancies, big and small businesses, delivering different workshops and different trainings. And then I've also had a fair bit of experience working with Sports Partnership, Hereford and Worcester, because I'm down in Droitwich. Alongside that work, I've done some work with the Police Crime Commissioner, working with low risk offenders, high risk offenders, all around the movement component with that work, and incorporating movement and fitness into those lifestyles to help with physical and mental health. I've met James, who's responsible for the organisation of today, through the work that Neil and I and Laura, who's the other part of the business, that do with a charity in Birmingham, or a CIC, I should say, in Birmingham, called Changes UK. And what Changes UK is an addiction recovery centre, an organisation. So they are publicly funded, well, not publicly funded, they're a charity registered business, but they're run as a private organisation, and they provide a 3-stage service to help people go through the recovery process. That's not the standard NHS process. So we've been doing some work with them, implementing the Better Happy programme into their organisation, with some amazing results, which I'm going to share with you some testimonials now, so you can actually hear it from people that have been through it. And I've met James and had a few chats with Mind and Mental Health Birmingham through that partnership. So that's kind of what I'm just going to go through today. So just to start off, just to give you a bit of an idea about the kind of outcomes of the program, I'm just going to share Emma's testimonial. So Emma is a service user. She's given permission for this to be shared. So Emma had some addiction problems, and she's got a family, 2 children, and she went to Changes to go through their recovery process. And the first stage of that process after detox, which is after coming off whatever it is that you're on, is to go through their 8-week recovery academy. And we've implemented the Better Happy program, which includes the physical health component, movement, nutrition and sleep, We've implemented that into that 8-week recovery program now. And Emma is one of the first people to go through it. And I just wanted to share her experience.
I couldn't do anything when I first came in. I've got no confidence, I've got no self-worth.
Can everybody hear that?
Yeah, I can hear that, yeah.
I didn't even have the strength or anything to get from one room to another. I was totally deflated. I don't feel like the same person. I feel amazing now. I've come on loads. And physically, I'm just so much stronger in myself. When you're feeling so much better in your mind and your body and your health and everything else, like your life's a lot better, isn't it? Like my journey will continue with me being healthy and getting up and looking after myself where I wasn't looking after myself before. With just the recovery, as in the groups and stuff like that, without the physical and the nutrition, I'd have had the knowledge in my head to gain my recovery, but physically and mentally, like I wouldn't have been fit. Coming in and doing the exercises and having the help from other people, like in here, and encouraging me and stuff, has been amazing. I can jog 3 miles around Cannon Hill now. I do all the exercises whenever you guys come in. I stick to it now. I do it all the way through. Like before, I was always moaning. I'd get to a couple of minutes and I'd say I can't do it, and you'd all like push me to keep on being better at myself, like doing better with myself and me. And it's like been amazing. Like I just persevered and I kept doing it and doing it and doing it when I didn't want to. But the encouragement, like, and the love like that I got from everybody, like that I was worth it and I could keep going and doing it, which is what I did. Because Carl, like the same, he perseveres with me and everybody else in there.
So I should just mention quickly on that. Oh god, I'll upload the video. I should just mention quickly on that they've actually got a champion model within the organisation now. So they've got peer mentors that have been through recovery that help implement the training and the things that we've covered, such as the movements and the exercise. And that's what Emma's discussing now, like the impact of actually having somebody within the community that that helps implement the program. Can we still hear that?
Because Carl, like the same, he perseveres with me and everybody else in there. There are times just wanting to give up, and it's really amazing, like the work that he puts in as well, to help us out to better our lives. I was struggling to eat when I first came in because I hadn't been eating while I were out there in addiction. I was lucky if I had a pot noodle every few days or something before. And at times as well when like he'll see me eating a raw beer and like he encourages me what to put in the smoothies and what to have for my dinner. We did a menu the other week actually, and like, he helped me do a week's worth of meals. On a Saturday I go and I get all the food in, and then I prep them for the whole of the week. So I've always got food and it's always dinner. I would never have done anything like that before. Looking after myself was a major thing since I've been in here. Like everything with my mental health, I don't feel so depressed now. My anxiety isn't through the roof. I've got the strength and the courage now to go out and achieve things and better myself in life. My children have got their mum back. I could be a daughter again. So yeah, it has really had a major effect on me. My confidence has really gone high. I feel better when I look in the mirror now, whereas I didn't want to look in the mirror before. I was just a shell of myself back then. I'm just doing so much better now. It's been really good for me. I just want to thank you all really for not giving up on me and pushing me to be a better person and achieve what I could do anyway. But I just found it hard when I first came in.
So obviously we've all been talking about the impacts, the positive mental impacts of physical activity on mental health. But I thought instead of me just repeating what the guys from Mind have said and what Ryan's talked about, I thought it'd be good to show a direct example of that. So, you know, Emma's gone from being entrenched in addiction to recovering from that, and then what changes have done. The very forward-thinking organisation have actually added in the how to be healthy component, which helps them, as Emma just said, helps with so many other aspects. So obviously coming off drugs or alcohol has a positive impact, a huge positive impact on your physical and mental health, but adding in the movement and the nutrition and the basic health stuff as well, as Emma said, has a really big impact. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an explanation of our approach, because it does verge slightly away from just physical activity, but it does also back up everything that the guys from Mind and Ryan have talked about. we help organizations, and our focus to help somebody improve their health and their happiness is to focus on identifying helping the person identify what makes them unique, then focusing on health through 4 components, and then ensuring that we've got a culture that supports that on an ongoing business and obviously on an ongoing basis. And obviously an organization is the perfect place to do that, because the business or the organization can actually support the culture. And I think some of the key things that come out of like what Ryan was saying was that you kind of create that community, and that's what really makes a difference, because people want to keep coming. We can give people all the training in the world, but if they're not in an environment or a group that makes that a natural part of their life, then it's not going to stick. And a lot of the success that Mind have talked about is in these projects where we get groups of people together, and we think that's a key part of the glue. So essentially what we would do if we're trying to help a business or a team or an organization is, first of all, and an individual, we've got an app for that, but it's help you first of all understand where it is that you're struggling. And often more than that, we're going to recognize that physical activity is one area of that. Then we'll focus on our transform process, which is giving people the basic knowledge they need. And that's what we're going to talk about today, to feel confident with and improve their health and their happiness levels. And then this is basically the kind of projects, this third piece here that Ryan was talking about and that Jazz was talking about and the other guys from Mind, creating that culture that supports ongoing positive mental and physical health. Why is it so difficult? I don't think I need to go through this in loads of detail, because I think most of us here know, but basically our lives no longer support us to be healthy and happy naturally. It's something we have to create. We have to kind of consciously make ourselves healthy and happy. And if we just go with the flow, there's a very high likelihood that we won't be. That's not how it's been for most of human history. For most of human history, we've had to be active. We've had to be in socially connected tribes or communities. We've had to eat healthy food because it was all that was available. We haven't had the opportunity to compare ourselves to millions of other people on apps on our phones. And we've naturally fallen into roles within our communities or tribes that align to our strengths. Now life's completely different. So we've obviously got a lot of processed food available, all of these things here that affect our physical health, sedentary lifestyles, jobs that don't really encourage us to move. Loads of reasons for us to struggle mentally. I haven't even mentioned COVID here, but being in a competitive society, comparing ourselves to others, phones, again, poor physical health, negatively impacting our mental health, a lack of knowledge around how to take care of our mental health, because it's something that we need to understand now. And then also we live in a society that's, unfortunately, it's the truth, we're not very health and happiness focused. We're very materialist and image focused, which causes a lot of problems. So our basic process is to help somebody create long-term sustainable change in their life is to teach the basics in these areas. Number one is identity. So know who you are. Like if you're going through your life, not being in line with your strengths and being true to yourself and exploring who you are and chasing your own vision and your own goals, ultimately we're not going to be very motivated or healthy and happy in life. And I think a lot of people, I know sometimes it's a biological reason, but a lot of the times that we struggle with mental health is because we've got a lack of confidence in this area, or we've never had this area developed. Okay, after that, we've got our health, the basics of health, and we've got 3 parts of physical health: movement, nutrition, and sleep, which everybody today has talked about, and then mindfulness. So the basics of looking after good mental health. This isn't addressing poor mental health. And then your culture and your environment. But what we're here to talk to you about today is the movement. So I'm just going to zoom into that. Now, a few, Stephen touched on this. I think Jazz might have touched on this. Our focus is to excel in the basics. Okay. And one of the guys from Mind talked about how people, don't need to, and it's in the videos, right? Don't need to run a marathon to be healthy. You don't need to do loads of weights. You don't need to look like a bodybuilder to be healthy. And a lot of the time, people think that that's what they need to do. So they go from the bottom of this pyramid here, which is where they're sedentary and inactive. They look in the mirror or they feel unhappy and they decide, okay, I'm going to sort my movement out, my fitness. And what do? We jump straight to the top of that pyramid. We sign up for a marathon. We start going to the gym 5 times a week. We start drinking protein shakes. We start obsessing over how we look, looking in the mirror every day, weighing ourselves. And it's not very healthy and it's not sustainable and it's not going to last. If somebody didn't have a driving license and they started learning to drive by jumping in a rally car and going around a track, then it's not going to be a very good experience. And it's exactly the same with movement. And the second part of that is that most people don't actually, when they dig into their motivators for wanting to be fitter, it's because they want to maybe look a bit better, but they want to look a bit better because they want to be more confident, have more energy and feel healthier and happier. So aiming for performance is actually irrelevant to their goals as well. So we help people understand that. We help people understand that the basics of the pyramid is to be healthy, and that if you can excel in that area, you know, it's actually a lot easier than probably what you think it is, more sustainable, and it takes less effort. And then if you want to get fitter, then on top of that, you can. We've been doing movement with businesses and individuals for, well, as you saw from my experience, for a very long time. We've worked with people from all walks of life. This video here just shows us doing basic movement training, which I'll explain to you in a moment, in schools, in businesses, and with charities such as Changes. Now we're here to talk about why physical health, or how physical health helps our mental health. The big problem, that big barrier that people have with getting into their physical health and improving it, is that they don't believe that they are capable of achieving it, and that they don't know the pathway to achieving it. And a lot of the programs and initiatives that have been mentioned this earlier on in this webinar help people with that. I would say that what we focus on is a step even before that. So we don't go in and talk about sports or anything like that. We talk to somebody about how to get rid of pain in the body through basic movement patterns, and how to look after your heart and lungs and improve your energy levels to feel good through very basic energy level requirements, which is either a step target or just trying to move, find some way to move for 20 minutes a day. And when you break that down, it really helps people build up that level of confidence. It helps them get rid of pains that they might have in the body already. Like most pains can be gotten rid of through, and we work directly with physios, but most pains that people suffer with can be gotten rid of with basic movement patterns. So that's what we install into organizations, into business, and what we help people understand is that to be physically healthy and to rid your body of pain, you don't need to be super fit. You just need to learn how to move properly by following these programs that we're presenting to you. A lot of it's around the mentality as well. So like I've already touched on, if we focus on the short-term benefits of exercise and we help people get into that mindset, we've got a much higher likelihood of actually helping them change sustainably. The long-term benefits of exercise are obviously that we live longer, potentially that we feel great, that we lose weight, potentially build some muscle, fight off disease. But you know, if we focus on that, then it's quite depressing. It's quite it's not very rewarding if we're focusing on that every day. So we really try to help people focus on exercise by focusing on the now. So what's the short-term benefits? Well, it makes me feel good. It releases endorphins. It helps me sleep better. It almost instantly changes my appetite. So when we help people focus on that, and this is high-level executives in companies, this is people going through Changes UK, this is the lads on the probation courses that we've worked with and the girls. We've worked with specialist schools where the kids have been taken out of mainstream schooling, and the message is always the same, and it always has the same impact. Focus on the short-term benefits of exercise, and you're much more likely to have a sustainable track at it, and you're going to find it more rewarding. If you come out of exercise thinking about, I feel less angry now, I feel less stressed, I feel clearer, and you're focusing on that, you're going to want to keep going. If you come out of exercise, jump on the scales and weigh yourself, you're going to get very disheartened very quickly. And our society doesn't help with that, because we do talk a lot about image, and you go on Instagram and it's all that 1% of the population that look a certain way, a big part of physical activity and making it sustainable is the education piece. Just to like break it down slightly, but what, you know, I've talked a lot about and showed you how it works, like the outcomes, but what does it actually, you know, what do we actually do? We go in and we break it down, we provide some systems and some education. So I'm not going to try and explain all that to you now because you would fall asleep. But basically we just break it down into 3 parts. Step 1 is building up trying to find your way to being a daily aerobic target. So by doing one of the programs that like such as what Ryan's running at Aston Villa, that's a really fun, enjoyable way to get that aerobic effort in every day that gives you that endorphin release. If you're scared of sports, or you're intimidated by it, or you haven't got that confidence yet, you can just focus on a step target, or you can focus on 20 minutes of effort a day. And you should try to aim to do that every day. And again, a big part of the education piece that we do with anybody we work with is being sensibly selfish and giving yourself not only permission, but making it a priority to put this stuff first and to make your work and your kids and whatever else it is fit around that. Because at the end of the day, if you let everything else come over you, looking after the kids, doing the job, and you forget this stuff, then you're going to be no use to anybody, because you're going to become unhealthy, stressed, and end up in pain. So hitting a step target or a daily activity target. And then we teach people the basics of movement. And this is what's really a big epiphany for most people we work with. If a young lad's saying he wants to go to the gym to get big and hench and stocky, then he still needs to learn the basics of movement to make sure that he can do that sustainably and release the right hormones that the body needs. If my nan comes to me and says she wants to get rid of back pain and knee pain, she needs to learn the basics of movement. It's exactly the same approach. So the beauty of that is that we can teach basically 3 basic movements: how to hinge, how to put your shoulders over your head, how to squat properly. And we can tailor that to a 90-year-old, to a 3-year-old, to a 15-year-old with different goals, to a sports focused person, or to a person that just wants to get rid of their pain. It's the same approach. And then once they've got that confidence up and they're a bit more pain free, and they've developed a level of fitness, they can then more likely to be confident to go and jump on a program such as many of the community projects that are being running. So a lot of people will just jump straight into those programs, but a lot of people aren't. So this kind of gives a step below again. And when you go into businesses and organizations where people just think they're not interested in health and fitness, showing them that it doesn't need to be that complex or that hard, again, can really have a transformative process in people. Because a lot of people think, I don't like fitness, I'm not a fitness kind of person, so even though I know it's good for me, I'm not going to do it. Whereas if you show them this, you know, it doesn't even need to be that, like, you don't even need to be fit, you just need to do these basic things for less than 20 minutes a day, and you can really transform. People start to be a lot more open and susceptible to it. And then, as the guys mentioned with like the walking, for example, what happens is, as the guys from Mind mentioned, you know, people start off walking more, and then all of a sudden, because their energy increases and their metabolism increases, they're a little bit more interested in sports or cycling or whatever else is available. So it's giving them that micro step to get them into a better place. I'll show you one more video. I'm just conscious of time, and then I'll stop talking. This is a guy called Carl, who's also at Changes UK. So he I've just cut some bits out, so it's not too long. Carl been through the program at Changes. He's a recovered alcoholic. He's been through a few times. He's had a bit of a relapse, which is very common with addiction. And then he really took to the program and has ended up championing the program. So, you know, he's learned everything that we talk about. He's learned how to implement that within a 6-month period, and is implementing that quite confidently. Now he's also doing his personal trainer, but he's having a huge impact there. And I just think from a lot of the stuff we've talked about today, and that we've heard about from Ryan and from the guys at Mind, seeing something like this can really like show us like how these champion models might be able to have a big impact throughout communities and in programs, by having one person that knows the very basics really well. What impact that can kind of have on other people. So this is Carl. I'll finish on this, a bit of a feel good. This is him in action. So we've installed the program, but Carl's actually leading it now. And this girl that you just saw is also leading with it. So what Carl, excuse me, I've cancelled the share on accident. What Carl does there is he teaches them the basic movements that I've kind of been talking about, and then combines that into a session that's very scalable and easy to do for all. So the kind of summary of my message and what I've kind of talked about is that you know, physical health has a huge impact on mental health, as does mental health has a huge impact on physical health. So it's a kind of cyclical process. But really, what our kind of secret sauce is, which isn't a secret because I would like to share it with the world if possible, is that, you know, by breaking it down and focusing on the basics of the pyramid, and just showing people that you don't need to be super fit to be healthy, you can have some really good positive impacts for people. So if you've ever got people that you want to work with that you feel have that big barrier, that they don't believe in themselves, or they've got a bit of pain, or they just think they're genuinely not interested in anything like fitness wise, and they've got some kind of fears around that, then this basic approach of like focus on this bottom part of the pyramid can really have a transformative impact on people. Conscious of time, so I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to go on any longer. I'll copy my details into the chat. They are on the slide there. I'll just put them up quickly in case anybody wants to. Again, so it's James has obviously got my details as well. So if you just want to, if there's anything you want to chat about or hook up, just feel free to contact me there or go on the Better Happy website.
Great. Thank you very much, Mike. That was really, really interesting talk. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much to all of the other speakers and everyone for coming today, and all of the excellent comments as well. I won't hold up anyone's time any further. We've got another webinar next week with the Future Parks Accelerator program. So that's about really physical activity in green spaces, and the Canals and River Trust talking about physical activity in around canals, which is, you know, been a lot of people have been using those sort of spaces really, certainly during the lockdown period. So it'd be great if some people could, you know, if you could attend that as well. So thank you very much for everyone today, and thank you very much.
Cheers, James.
Thank you.